got out of that a little too early. Sorry about that. That's a bit of unprofessionalism early, but maybe I bet on myself to stuff up the intro. Who knows? Anything is possible in MAFFS. Welcome to the show. 15 million of you listening right around the globe. I was recently in Greece last week, which is why I couldn't be on the show. And let me tell you, the people of the island of Paros could not get enough of MAFFS. They were asking the big questions. They were asking, what time is it in New Zealand? Is Izzo bottle-worthy? I didn't have the answer to either of those things. But, I just pointed them into the direction of last week's episode, which included one of the all-time great ideas in MAFFS history, which, let's be honest, there's been a billion of them. If you can criticize this show for its production values, its lack of research, its sporadic timing, it's many structural issues with the show, people talking over each other, mic issues, whatever.
Yes, it's great to be here, Nick. Lovely to be on MAFFS.
Long-winded intros, not getting to the point. You can accuse this podcast of many things. The one thing you cannot accuse this podcast of is a lack of creativity, a lack of ideas. And Teo Pellizzeri, last week, your simultaneous penalty shout was one of the all-time greats. Has FIFA got in contact with you? I know there was the Congress this week and there were some big issues being discussed, but surely none more important than simultaneous penalty shootouts. What has been the impact?
The impact has been one of utter surprise. That was people's main takeaway when Snakes and Ladders with no snakes was right there for people. Look, Stoll, it's great to have you back. Fantastic for you that you got to enjoy a holiday with the people of Greece. And I see you're angling for your next holiday with that Deportivo La Coruña jersey you are wearing as well, celebrating their promotion. Now, we do have a new face on MAFFS this week. He is known as the main man from Cromer Park, Alex Molchanoff. Mulch, welcome to MAFFS. You're a hardcore listener to the show. So I reckon, Stoll, would you like to do the honours and ask Alex the question that launched MAFFS into the Australian football discourse?
Yes. So if it's the 94th minute and you want to bring on a horse, can you do it, and how would you place them at the court? No. The question that, look, this is the thing, guys. So you might have seen Alex pop up in the comments, right? This is the thing. People can go from comments to the show. We have a talent pathway. The curriculum of MAFFS is just a one extremely incredible pipe pumping great ideas from the comments to the show. And you know what? Some of the comments are coming in and already they're just criticizing. And you know what? We don't need that kind of attitude. We need yes and. We need positive things. So, Alex, there's really only two questions you need to answer when you come on this show. There's no other prep required. The first one is, what made Australian football fun for you this week?
Well, I'm already going to go off track with the answer because it's actually Kiwi/Australian football fun this week. I managed to watch the Wellington-Melbourne victory semi-final second leg with the New Zealand commentary on it. And I must say, Jason Pine did a fine job, particularly with the last-minute equaliser from Oscar Zavada that saw Sky Stadium going into absolute it was into raptures. It was mad. And Piney's execution of getting the bias just right throughout the call, just to almost crescendo at that point alongside Jacob Spoonley. You can't write stuff like that. It's absolutely fantastic. Bias in the right timing, and I just think it's very, very underrated in football commentary. Everyone wants neutrality. Everyone wants everyone to stay straight down the line. What we should be looking for is more and more bias in our commentary.
100%.
End of seasons.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. You know what? This is actually one of the things I love about the NBA structure is when you go on like NBA League Pass or whatever, you can select between the kind of like your standard ESPN kind of neutral commentary, and then you can choose between the local commentary of each city, in Minnesota or Denver, in the case last night. And it is great to have a bit of partisan commentary. Now, look, if you live here in Spain, the commentators just love Real Madrid, and that's on the neutral normal networks. They actually say in Champions League games, like, vamos Bellingham, vamos Jude, let's go Jude, let's go, as he's on the ball. Like, it's a bit of a ridiculous thing. But Teo, obviously, you're the voice of Australian fun football Australian football fun. I'm not sure how we quite word that, but what do you think about bias in commentary? Do you think it's needed? Do you think it adds just that little bit extra spice?
It's funny you mention Real Madrid, because after they advanced to the Champions League final, it almost seemed as though Real Madrid collectively as a squad decided we're going to put all our energy into Vinicius Jr. winning the Ballon d'Or this season. You know, Jude, you can go and win the Euros, but if Vinny wins the Copa, it's going to be Vinny. And all the Real Madrid players, not because they dislike Jude, but I feel as though they just thought it was Vinny's turn. And that's the sort of collective hive mind and the sort of bias that maybe when people say that Australian football hasn't united its stakeholders to all pull in the same direction, it's because we're actually too fair and reasonable.
Yes.
And we represent things like democracy and truth, when in fact buying into one big collective lie might be the answer to get everyone pulling in the same direction. Because, Stoll, you're living that. You are subject to Real Madrid's big collective lie that they tell themselves and the football world every game they play, every weekend of the season. Have you seen anything even close to approaching that in the game in Australia, where everyone is in sort of collective self-delusion? Even during the Matildas' run to the semi-final of the World Cup, you had pricks like me saying, "Yeah, but they're not defending too well." So, Stoll, have you seen anything that even compares?
Cue the Sydney FC conspiracy comments. Bring them in.
I like this. We don't get a lot of
Sydney slant.
Oh, here we go. But no, Stoll, answer that one first before we get into the semi-finals.
The collective delusion that I've seen, the powerful collective delusion that I've seen, is not quite in Australian football, but it is in Australian sport. It is the idea that AFL is this sleeping giant of world sport. And if they just realized overseas the game that they were missing, then suddenly AFL would take over the world. My dad, who's from Victoria, was here this week in Barcelona, and it's the first time that AFL has been streamed on my TV here in Barcelona. I'm sure AFL.com or whatever was like, wow, we're getting hits in Barcelona. And he still believes that AFL will be the biggest game in the world in like 100 years' time or something.
Stoll. Yes. Harley Reid gave Christian Petrarca and Clayton Oliver the don't argue in the same phase of play. If Vinny Jr. and Jude Bellingham tried to tackle Harley Reid, he would cave in their chests. It'd be like that scene in Temple of Doom where he would have the ball in one arm and literally reach in and claw their hearts out with the other. Did you see how he ran off Christian Petrarca? He made him look like Cale Hooker. I'm not even an Eagles fan, Stoll. And
you know what? That goal, I did say that goal, and it actually reminded me of those goals where like a player dribbles the ball from midfield, but no one closes them down, and then they just get to the edge of the box and just kind of like slot one in.
What was that? Was it Messi against Villarreal where he receives the ball just inside his own half, sidesteps two players immediately, and then just sprints on the diagonal all the way in from the top of the screen down to the middle? Yeah. Like his introductory wonder goal. It was like that.
So, you know what, actually, it's interesting you mentioned, because talking about Ballon d'Ors, we're talking about, do you think it's going to be awkward if Argentina win the Copa America, Messi is the best player in the tournament, and then we kind of just have to be like, geez, the best player in the world is just like semi-retired playing with his mates in Miami? Like,
if anything's going to get the spaceship to come back and dock on Earth, and for you know who, for them to lower the drawbridge, and for you know who in his bucket hat to come walking out of the spaceship, it's going to be a Ballon d'Or winner coming from the MLS.
Yeah, that is true. Hey, Alex, look, the people are with you. Simon says, Alex, I'm with you. I don't know exactly what he's referring to there. Daniel is asking the big questions. What if Buddy Franklin played for the Socceroos? You know what I found out this week? Buddy Franklin doesn't play for the Swans. What happened there? I totally missed he retired. Well, anyway.
It's the one piece of AFL news we do pick up in Sydney is Buddy Franklin news. He's retired, Stoll. Even I knew that. Come on.
Wait, did he retire like good, or like was it like a bit of a, was he trying to get his last contracts? Was it I don't know. I think
he had another year to go. You might be able to correct me, Teo. I think he had another year to go in his contract and he opted out early. So not quite that situation.
He went down the international man of mystery path. He didn't have a press conference. He got injured. He got injured, and it was just over. No goodbye.
save it for the documentary. Joseph asked a big question. What if Ben Simmons played for the Richmond Tigers? Teo, how
he wouldn't play.
Yeah, exactly. How many minutes do you think he would average in 10 seasons for the Richmond Tigers?
Yeah, tough times for the Tigers at the moment. Their injury list is at the point where they are actually considering putting one of their basketballers in. But let's leave that aside because, Stoll, I want to talk about what made Australian football fun for me this week. It's happening.
We've got 50 minutes to get through
the
show.
10 minutes in.
I just want to all our bullets.
You know? I just want to throw it out there because it's happening tomorrow. It didn't happen over the weekend.
Okay.
South Melbourne versus Preston, or Preston versus South Melbourne in the Australia Cup preliminary rounds tomorrow. Expected crowd 3,500 to 4,000, but there's a little competition called the National Second Division, upon which the Guns have largely fallen quiet. We haven't had a press conference since November. We haven't had any real news come out from anyone. I think there might have been one media release since November of last year, which was largely just we're working on it. And I feel, I do feel like it's kind of the homework assignment that you've been putting off. And all of a sudden it's like, it's not due until September. And then all of a sudden it's like, what do you mean it's the 20th of May? What do you mean it's almost June? And unfortunately, the transfer window opens in the NPL soon, and the market will decide. It's like The Big Short, where, Steve Carell's character, Michael Berry, is on the phone and he goes, it's a bubble, and all of a sudden everyone springs into action because it is a bubble. The player movement when the transfer window opens will give us the best indicator of if this National Second Division is going ahead or not, unless FA/the clubs get out in front of it, and all the bigwigs are going to be going to Preston. And there is a MAFFS connection because a certain man by the name of Joshua Sidelines Parrish will be emceeing a pre-game function with all the bigwigs in attendance. I don't know if he's going to be asking the hard-hitting questions or if he's going to be, more simply just the face of, a bit of PR. I guess we'll find out this time tomorrow. But that's what's making it's almost like sometimes the anticipation of your birthday or the anticipation of Christmas is more fun than the day itself. Often because my parents ended up fighting. Sorry. But it turns out it turns out that like the anticipation of the day. Especially if you kind of know what you asked for as a present, but you don't know what you're definitely getting. Something's wrapped under the tree, and I don't know if it's NPL as normal in 2025 or if it's the National Second Division. And that is what is making Australian football fun for me this week.
I love that. And, I wish, do you remember when, again, take it back to the NBA, Brian Windhorst went viral because at this point in the NBA season, it was trade season, and he was like, what is going on in Utah? And no one was talking about Utah. And he was like, they've just made this random trade for this random dude. I can't even remember who it was, but no one cared. And none of his, his co-presenters had any idea what he was talking about. And then the next day, Utah traded Rudy Gobert to Minnesota, who are now basically on the verge of going to an NBA Finals. So you should have delivered that in Windhorst style because it is that kind of thing of like, watch the.
Well, I didn't know you were going to break the no Spalding rule.
No. There is no Spalding rule. All right, Spalding. We embrace Spalding. It's the right shape. Can I just say,
if someone's Michael Burry. Yeah.
How are Real Madrid basketball going this season, Stoll? Are they telling the big lie too?
Oh, I mean, probably. I mean, you know what? Genuinely, what happens here is as soon as the Real Madrid football team struggles, suddenly the basketball team becomes the most important thing in the whole country if they're doing well. But they're still claiming Luka. But look, can I say, the comments on fire already. Thank you so much. One of the all-time great comments has come in, and maybe it's only up my alley, but the national second tier, the Sagrada Familia of Australian football. Now, this is one of the all-time great shouts. Now, for those of you that don't know, the Sagrada Familia is this incredible icon of Barcelona. It is a church. It is intricately designed. It is beautiful. It is the amount of detail involved is incredible. But about 150 years or something after it first started being built. It is still yet to be completed. It is still a work in progress.
But it's beautiful, Stoll. But it's beautiful. And that's what we're wondering,
It's beautiful. It gets tens of thousands of people visiting it every single day. It sells tickets like crazy. It's an icon of the city. That's what we want the national second tier to be. Unfinished, beautiful, selling tickets.
I'm in Talkback Radio. Do we have any prizes to give away to, contestants that are, sending in comments like that? That's outstanding from Aaron. The Sagrada Familia.
Well, Aaron, congratulations. You've got a Bataki hand.
No, Aaron, it's a good point. Whoever does the best questions, the best comments, the best questions, whatever, will receive whatever I can find on this table in front of me. So what we have here is a NY beanie that was purchased for €1 at a bazaar here in Barcelona. Why it says NY, I have no idea. There was no Barcelona ones. Or you can have a Copenhagen. That is the equivalent of a Copenhagen Opal card. There's a travel card, and it allows you. I believe there is still €2 left on that. So get your comments in, because what a prize that is. Is that how you do it, Alex? I haven't been in talk.
That was spot on. You generally throw out a specific topic or a question, but I think we're just looking for the best text of the night. 13 13 32 is our number.
Isn't that Pizza Hut?
No, it's TUE. The old TUE number for those Talkback Radio buffs like myself.
You know what? I was thinking Lubemobile, 13 30 32. Is it that's Lubemobile?
Oh, there you go. It was 13 13 32.
Whoa. Did we just uncover the biggest conspiracy ever? Was Lubemobile taken over by TUE for the Talkback number? Let us know your favorite phone numbers in the comments. Best phone number, most iconic phone number wins a prize. You win a fan. Oh, Spanish star. It's amazing what happens when you don't clean up your tab. Look,
Stop. I need to ask you.
Yes.
What made Australian football fun this week, mate?
Mate, it's a really good question. Well, to be honest, there was a lot of things that didn't make Australian football so fun this week. I think the funnest thing was your idea for the penalty shootout. That was probably the funnest idea. I think what made Australian football fun for me actually was the Wellington, you said it before, the goal that Zavada scored. Just because I am not, look, I'm a big fan of Spanish football. Therefore, I'm not a big get it launched kind of guy. But when getting it launched works so well, so perfectly, it's almost tiki-taka in the sky, skiki-skaka or something, right? The long ball up, the header across, the finish, the first time volleyed finish was absolutely perfect. And then what made it also fun was that perfect moment, that epic, we'll never forget this. This is one of the best moments, maybe the best moment in Wellington football history. Just for it to be completely ruined, 15 minutes later by Chris Economidis, who I basically forgot was even playing for Victory, the Ben Simmons of Melbourne Victory, to pop up at the back post and score one of the most unremarkable goals ever to send Victory again. And I love a team that shithouses their way to a final. We talked about Tony Popovich's team this year, and we said they're undefeated and potentially unwatchable a lot of the games because it was rough going. They were undefeated, and we still. What did Joe say? Didn't even call them the hardest team to beat. They hadn't been beaten at one stage. So for Victory, and Alex, we talked about this a little pre-show. Is this Victory side, along with the side that the Heist in the Hunter? Is Victory going to do the double and be the two worst teams ever to win a grand final, to be A-League champions? Teo, who do you think is the worst A-League team ever to be champions? It's a tough question.
Yeah, Mulch, you can go first on that one because I think Heist in the Hunter, it's remarkable. You see how many points Sydney finished clear on top of the ladder that season. I mean, anyone other than them that season would have been a bit of a travesty, but I think people could at least, handle Newcastle because it was so different and it was such a refreshing story. And when Victory got through to that grand final, I think a lot of people suddenly resigned themselves to the idea that Sydney FC were going to come back and we were going to get a big blue grand final. But Mulch, what were your thoughts on that semi-final?
Well, no, I think that Victory easily have the claim for not only the potentially after this weekend the two worst championship sides of all time, but perhaps the two worst grand final sides. I can't think of maybe Adelaide, that Adelaide team that were beaten 6-1, but then you look back to that season and they had a decent season. They just didn't turn up on the day, got the early red card.
Look,
I
from
think
memory,
worst-
Perth when they played Brisbane in the final. I can't remember.
But then they should have won that. There's an argument they should have won that game. So, if anyone has got any worse grand finalists than these two Victory teams, I'd love to hear them, because I have been searching through the archives this week and I can't find them. Let's go back to the NSL. Are there any shithouse NSL teams that made the grand final?
Parramatta Power in the last year was pretty awful from memory.
A fitting grand final.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, look, the comments coming in, and if you're just joining, you're probably looking at the comments and going, "What the hell is going on there?" Because people are saying "reading writing hotline is the goat," and then John has backed that up with 1300. What wasn't it? 655
1300 655 06.
See, 1300. It works. Maybe the A League needs a hotline. All right, maybe we need. Yeah, everyone's talking about marketing.
We've tried to write songs, stole it, hasn't worked.
we need a cat. Oh, yeah, it's true. We need a cat, but that didn't include a phone number. All right, it needs to be more catchy. It needs to have a phone number. Let us know what should the A League phone number be. I don't know what's on the other end of the A League phone number. Maybe just a complaints line. You can complain about the refereeing. You can complain about the many things that people like to complain about. But
back to your question about worst A League champion, like where does the Western United versus Melbourne City grand final kind of sit? Because I mean, it was two teams from Melbourne just coming out of COVID, couldn't sell out AB Park. And also a bit of a surprise in that I think no one really took Western United seriously until all of a sudden they were 1-0 up in the grand final. And, this is actually happening. And to be fair, at least they only finished 4 points behind Melbourne City in third that season. So it's not like they were 15 or 20 points behind like Melbourne Victory were in 2018. But I think that Western United versus Melbourne City grand final is getting a few nominations as the worst to have been played, maybe in terms of the spectacle. I don't know.
I pretty much forget every sporting event that happened during COVID except for the Olympics. Like everything, even they were doing the Klopp farewell for Liverpool. And like they barely, they showed all the Champions League stuff. They showed all the kind of great moments. They barely touched on the time that they, won the Premier League in COVID, because I think everyone just is like, oh yeah, whatever. Bayern Munich won the Champions League during COVID in that empty stadium against PSG. It just feels like it was like, all right, I guess, sure. So I feel
maybe you can put that Sydney FC Melbourne City grand final up there, where City, and that Sydney FC was probably the weakest of the team period that won a grand final. It was not a terrific team by any stretch of the imagination, but the fact was that City were at the start of their climb, if we want to get into Bill Simmons territory about where they were on their journey to a championship.
Apex Mountain.
Yeah, exactly. They were certainly not there yet. And Sydney FC was sort of tailing off towards the end of theirs. That was probably the weakest of the teams in that era by some distance.
Peter is 100% right. And
that was a dreadful grand final.
This
was the worst grand final I've ever seen in my life.
Can I be a bit partisan here? It also happened 24 hours after ScoMo won the 2019 election. Like that weekend. That weekend was not the greatest, depending on which team you barrack for, so to speak.
But just like I had wiped that grand final from my memory, except the only thing every now and again, even in a terrible game, there is a moment that redeems itself. And Brenton Santalab, with the last kick of football in A-League football, going for a Panenka and just going straight down the throat of Andrew Redmayne. Andrew Redmayne almost with the most patronising of saves. Thanks, mate. Honestly.
Well, that was another one. It was nearly the second grand final in 3 years. No one remembers this, where there was a dodgy offside call. Adam Lafondra probably should have been awarded a goal in the 90 minutes.
Yes. Yeah, it's true. But the other thing as well that was kind of annoying about that, like the whole thing coming into that grand final was that this Perth team had actually been good for once, and they had Diego Castro, and that was good, and Popper Ball seemed to be working over in the West, and Popper was finally going to break his duck. Perth was finally going to get their championship, and it just didn't peter out at all. And then pretty average Sydney FC team won, and Steve Corica probably got a few more extra months or years out of just that grand final win, which was pretty dodgy. I like Daniel's comment, the abandoned shopping mall of grand finals. I mean,
that is an amazing. I think that actually might be referring to Western United versus Melbourne City, but regardless, that is an amazing description for the game.
Maybe we need to, how like the big boxing matches get kind of nicknames or something. Should we go through and just give
the malice at the palace?
Yeah, exactly.
The abandoned shopping mall.
I did like Joseph's already got ahead of the game and said conspiracy on the coast if the Vuk get up. Yeah, I mean, see the heist in the Hunter and the conspiracy on the coast. I mean, this is like better than the Ocean's 11 trilogy of robberies.
I think that's a perfect segue though, because was there a conspiracy involving the coast this weekend just gone? Here's my nickname for the second leg of the semi-final between Central Coast and Sydney FC. It was the OJ trial of games, because even though we know what happened, we didn't have the hard evidence to prove it. We know the ball crossed the line. We know it crossed the line. We know it was a goal. We don't have the evidence to prove it. We know it was a handball. We don't have the evidence to prove it. We know that Sydney FC were robbed, but we don't really have the evidence to approve it. And if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. And the Central Coast Mariners are through to the grand final because we don't have goal line technology. And by the way, $3 million just to get a license for goal line tech. So everyone's blowing up Royal about $1 million a year on VAR. Triple that just for the right to spend more money setting it up at every venue. Good luck with that. Maybe for finals only. But even then, would you spend $3 million just to have goal line technology for 7 games at the end of the season? Probably not. So my takeaway from that game is, Sydney FC were a bit unlucky, but, Central Coast, that's what happens when your CEO is joint CEO of your club and the league. Oh, wait, that wasn't the Mariners. That was also Sydney FC. So let's. I'm not crying too many crocodile tears over here. Main man from Cromer Park, did you see it a little bit differently?
Look, the Sydney will come out of me here, but Sydney were robbed, and that's fine. That's okay. Sydney have ruined, as we've just talked about. Sydney have ruined enough good stories in the A-League for one to get slipped through to the keeper, and I'm hoping the same happens against Victory. The next thing for the Mariners to tick off their list as the great can-do men of Australian football is to knock off the 2 teams that have made the league less fun than any other. So it's the completion of their journey.
You know what? It'd be nice to see, like we've all liked the Mariners story going from kind of the loser club of the league, like these guys should be relegated basically, to winning cups in Asia and winning the league last season, and we were praising them so much. I don't know what I call them, the Mythbusters of Australian football. It'd be great to see a little villain turn. They become the most hated team in the league. Like imagine that soon there's going to be
what would it take? What would it take? How many years?
I think Western Sydney Wanderers fans have they're so far down the road on this. They're the ones that are kind of driving the bus on. The Mariners commit murder with the fouls. Jacob Farrell is like the what was the real name of American Sniper? I'll look that up. But it seemed they've got their issues with off-field conduct in an actual serious criminal matter. Like the Mariners' lovable underdog has been stretched and stretched and stretched to the point where it's pretty transparent now that there's a lot to not love, and yet who is ever going to cheer for one of the big boys against them? I think that's the issue. Who's going to say, no, today we do a U-turn and we support Sydney FC or Melbourne Victory against the Mariners? Other neutrals, other than I would suggest the Wanderers fans, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's a good question, and like just kind of on the semi-final. I mean, Sydney FC did have their chances. I know, like that goal. I think that goal should have stood. I mean, the whole thing about Fabio was impeding Brian Caltech. I mean, he was in an offside position, but he barely touched him. Like, I thought it was a bit of a harsh call. And then there was the other handball, which I'm never really sure what is a handball and what is not a handball. Like Daniel Arzani had 0.01 seconds to get his hand out the way, and that was called a handball, and then this wasn't, and stuff like that. And as well, but like Fabio, that early chance that he had from, I mean, I can't remember who did that perfect little reverse pass to set him up, but yeah, obviously great player. But then the miss that, like, oh man, I feel like if Sydney FC had a prime Lafondra in there, they would have steamrolled this.
But is it weird that the Mariners like played so reactively and were just like, okay, we're still getting lucky. Let's ride our luck, and sure, if Sydney scores any one of these chances or gets a penalty and gets the opportunity to score a goal, I think everyone's of the assumption that they would have gone on with the job here. Are we misreading it? But the Mariners have actually started trying to attack based on the game state, but as long as they were in front on aggregate, felt no need to do anything differently.
They did this in every game against Sydney this year. They did it in the game where they lost 2-0, and they were beaten badly at Allianz Stadium late in the regular season. So I've always found the way Mark Jackson has set up his team against Sydney all year confusing. They were outplayed over the two legs, and the fact is it's paid off. So credit to him at the end of the day. But yeah, I'd still have question marks over that. It's all feeding into that OJ reference is that it probably was the wrong way. It probably was the wrong way to set up his team in all 3-4 games during the year, but still it's ended up getting him out the other end and into a grand final where now they'll be favourites against victory in front of a packed stadium at Gosford. And the fact of the matter is we should just be reveling in the fact that the story is so good and that the Mariners are going to get their happy ending. Unfortunately, you've got the great...
No. This was OJ Simpson, not Robert Kraft.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Which other podcasts in the world would you get these type of references? Who is going to be talking about the Central Coast Mariners and OJ Simpson in the same sentence? That's what you got to ask yourself. You're listening, you're witnessing history if you're tuning into this broadcast.
I want to pick you up on saying Mariners will be favourites for this game. The form line this season, so what they met in round 6, it was a 2-2 draw. Unite round was a 1-1 draw on a neutral venue in Sydney. And then round 18 was a 1-0 win for the Mariners. I mean, and prior to that season before, they split it. 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss. No one has scored 3 in a game in a match between these two teams since 2020, so 4 years. And looking at the form line here, there's 5 1-1 draws in the last 10 games between these teams.
You've really filled that one up, Ko.
Well, they are razor thin. No, I was actually thinking about who is favourite and why, and I think that these two teams are razor thin in terms of what separates them. And I guess the tough call for Tony Popovich is, who does he drop for Zinedine Mishash to come back from his suspension? Because Economidis scored the goal and Ben Falami was crucial off the bench. And Economidis would have been the obvious candidate to get dropped heading into this weekend if he hadn't scored.
So just before we totally preview the grand final and give our predictions and that kind of stuff, just want to quickly talk about the teams that have been eliminated. And first, I want to talk about Wellington. Wellington, amazing season. Full credit to Giancarlo Italiano. It talked about, made the league fun. Just was a fun character. I loved him talking this week in the press conference about how he's still cursing out players from 1992 because Sampdoria lost the Champions League final to Barcelona. Like, just an epic reference, talking about, what's he going to do on his break or something. I think he was just going to play like Call of Duty or whatever. He's going to play some video games or something. His dress sense. And one of the things that's great about the Mariners and Wellington, and maybe a lot of these other teams need to quickly learn this, is they've managed to find success without spending a ton of money. And it looks like the next few seasons is going to be a lot of belt tightening, and there's going to be a lot of kind of you're going to need to be creative and come up with good solutions. And you think about Giancarlo Italiano, there's no way, with all the respect to him, there's no way he gets that opportunity if Wellington had heaps of money to buy a big name foreign coach or even kind of maybe a big name A-League coach. They, one of the reasons they kind of give him the job was probably because there was a lack of cash, and
quite simply, Stolt, they would have either retained Rodan or Tale. They wouldn't have been poached away.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it's because sometimes, and maybe people need to think about this going into the new season, because there's a lot of doomsdays and, oh my God, the league is not going to have as much money as it did in the past. It's like, sometimes that's not always the bad thing. Sometimes because there's a lack of cash, some really good people can get some opportunities that they normally wouldn't have. So that's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. Another thing I wanted to say was, and this is the thing about Wellington. So we know that as part of their inspiration this season, they pinned up a YouTuber's face in the dressing room, right? Now, everyone thought that it was Central Coast Football Watch. Sorry, mate, forget your name, whatever you are, but good luck to you. Everyone thought it was him. And then Giancarlo Italiano revealed in the change room that, in fact, it wasn't him. And then it was accused on Twitter that it was, in fact, maybe me or Teo, maybe both of us, maybe side by side, smiling. Possibly. It could be. Maybe
sometimes maybe you, sometimes maybe me.
Yeah, he swaps it out. It's possible. I still don't think it's us. I would love to know, A, what the time is in New Zealand, and B, who is that person on the wall. That has to get revealed at some stage. But do you think their season came unraveled? Because, of course, you can look at that picture pre-match. You can look at that picture at halftime. When is the only time you cannot look at that picture? Extra time, because you don't go back into the change rooms. Where did their season, the first hurdle that they've fallen at is the extra time. Should Chiefy Giancarlo Italiano have brought the picture out, revealed to the stadium? Should they have put it up on the big screen so everyone could have seen it? Should have been like a banner and unfolded from the ceiling of the stadium? And would that have inspired Wellington to victory? What say you, Teo?
Well, it maybe, how before penalty shootouts, the nerd assistant coach always makes a big point of taking the tablet over to the goalkeeper, and they're looking at the history of penalties, or at least pretending to. Maybe that is why Wellington Phoenix's graphic designer added me on LinkedIn last week. He just wanted a nice crisp JPEG that he could put on the tablet and take out to the middle of the ground and show to the goal, show to Alex Paulson before extra time. Hey, maybe just a nice high-res JPEG of Chris Economidis for the defenders to identify at the back post might have helped them get through to the grand final as well.
Alex, do you have any suspicions on who it might be? If it's not me, if it's not Teo, if it's not Central Coast Football Watch, is there anyone else that could possibly be? Because let's be honest, there's not that many A-League YouTubers that even exist. So is it possible that Giancarlo Italiano has just made this person up? That this person doesn't actually exist? Or
are you telling me
a
coach invented a straw man to rail against? I won't hear it.
Maybe it's like Fight Club, where in fact the YouTuber
is Giancarlo
Italiano. Yeah, Giancarlo Italiano's other personality. He has this alternate personality that
burner.
Even he burner. Even he doesn't know. Imagine, this would be the best story. If a coach set up a burner to inspire his own team by insulting them, and then was hanging up the tweets of the burner and being like, "Look what this guy's saying about you." That is outrageous. I mean,
if there was one coach in the A-League I could see doing that, it is Giancarlo Italiano. He is an absolute football nerd. He would do anything. And I think I respect that about him as much as anything. It's completely mad, but somewhat realistic.
Andrew says, why can't coaches be more fun? It's a really good question. And Giancarlo Italiano was fun. He was just a good personality. And let's be honest, the football was an amazing fun. And I'm hoping it's going to improve next season. And, with more time, you would think so. But it just shows that even if your team is not playing the most fun football, you don't have to be a curmudgeon in the press conference as well and be not fun at all. What killed me was a few years ago, the A-League tried something. They tried a dual, we talked about dual penalty shootout. They tried a dual press conference, right? And everyone was like, this is the worst idea ever, the dual press conference, blah, 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 blah. But the thing is, it's not the worst idea ever, because it's funny when it happens in other sports. It's funny when it happens in Formula One. It's funny when it happens in boxing. It's funny when two charismatic people are going at each other, right? Because it is very interesting to get the instant reply to each other and the awkwardness of it. The problem is they did this press conference with Steve Corica and Nick Montgomery, which, let's be honest, not exactly the most charismatic, full personality driven thing. Now, kind of a Giancarlo Italiano and like a Miron Blyberg or something, that's box office, baby. We're all tuning into that press conference. So I think I'm agree with Andrew. I want to see more fun coaches next season. All right. Now, Auckland's going to come in with Steve Corica already. That's a -1 there. So we're going to have to make it up in the aggregate.
Hang on,
Steve
Corica is good at sideline B. If he can just bring a little bit of that out, you just need the media manager to get into his ear in Auckland and say, look, we're looking to rev up this first ever derby. You need to go at Giancarlo, go at his clothes, go at his hair, go at his weight, go at something, go to low blow. So it's...
To be fair, Mulch, I think the lowest blow would actually be to go at his football. Like all the personal insults, I actually think he could ride with pretty comfortably. It's funny you mentioned that because Auckland has already shown an element of dare with the pitch invader with the leaked kit.
I like it.
And it suggests to me that there perhaps is a maverick rebel element to this Auckland team in order to get cut through. Whether that can actually permeate the football department is another matter, but at least I think we know they're committed to the bit in terms of a bit of stuntmanship and pageantry to try and get some attention.
Wizard of Woy Woy says Corica wouldn't help the media. He wouldn't give the quotes till 1 minute before filing, like he never subbed youth players on till 89 minutes. The Luka Ivanovic of leaking quotes. Blinkus Fishes says the idea of MAFFS motivating teams out of mediocrity is pretty funny though. Teo, is this the money-making scheme that we need? Do we need to set up a consultancy business where we motivate the worst teams in the A-League?
No, but you would be amazed how easy it is for a coach to say, this person in the media said this about you to a player. The player never goes and sources it for themselves and then uses that as the spur to perform. Taylor's old as time still works. So, we could be responsible for things we never said, but if a coach says it to a player as a motivational tactic and they never actually go and source it for themselves, then, who knows what sort of motivation we might actually be providing.
Wizard of Woy Woy, that's like potting him into form, isn't it? That's just very good from Wizard of Woy Woy. And Joseph Ciccone, again, great idea from Joseph. Gattuso, marquee manager for Auckland. I mean, Auckland already has a team. Canberra, get your stuff together. Let's get going. Gattuso, that's what we need to see. Well,
is this the identity of the MAFFS football club? Is the entertainers, yes, but also the antagonizers.
Oh, yes.
Making something, rivalries with everyone, as opposed to someone like a Perth Glory. Well, I guess Perth have that to an extent already. I'm trying to think, a club like Brisbane who don't really have a rivalry with anybody. Can we be the opposite of that?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think we need to expand this. We need to look at this. We need to start creating rivals. At first we were all love and trying to keep it positive. Maybe we just need to start, creating some rivalries. I think maybe with the league itself. Never mind the other team, just the entire league. Alex, as a Sydney FC fan, how would you kind of grade this Sydney FC season? Because obviously it started with Corica and it was a bit of a disaster, and then Uffy took over and it improved a bit, and there were injuries and there were issues. But overall, how does it sit with you?
I think the most telling thing I can give you, Stoll, is that I was more confident of Sydney coming away from a result being down 2-1 going into that game against the Central Coast Mariners this weekend than I was last season when they went down to Melbourne with a score level. I think that says everything. The way the team have played this year, yes, there's still some dead wood that will probably be cut and hopefully be cut over the course of the off-season. But I think overall, from Calais... No, it's not. It's not at all. Not at all. But I think Ufuk Chalet and David Zdrilic are bringing back a style of football which is exciting, which is the most important thing in Sydney. If you know anything about Sydney, it's all about the glitz, the glamour, about playing the right way. And I think the energy the team show and just the fact that they're so proactive for the most part, it hasn't been as consistent, I'm sure, as Uffy would have wanted it to be this year. But the fact of the matter is it's improved so far from where they were after losing those first 3 games without scoring a goal and just looking absolutely, so short of a run compared to where they needed to be. And now they're clearly a top 4 team in the league. I think next year, if that progression continues, they'll be a top 2 team in the league, and we might have the Death Star battle between Victory and Sydney FC, which can be fun in itself. They're more fun when they're facing each other than when they're facing the Minnows, I would say.
Oh, totally. And you know what? I actually just want one season in the A-League where Victory, Sydney, and Wanderers are all battling it out for the championship.
We've never had it.
Because we've never had it. Always one of the teams have been shit. And
it's always been Wanderers.
It was you this year. No, because it was just the Wanderers. Like, let's be honest, the Wanderers are only basically good for like the first 3 or 4 seasons, and then they've just kind of fallen off a cliff for like 7 or 8 seasons after that. Hopefully, this documentary on SBS is going to inspire them back to the glory days. But
Mulch, interesting. You mentioned the poor start to the season and moving on from Corica. Sydney FC did win one of the 3 major trophies on offer. I mean, regardless of where the Australia Cup will sort of fall this coming iteration, it seems to be diminishing returns through the preliminary rounds. But the final itself, once you get there, is still an occasion. I mean, it's a long time ago because it's right back at the start of the season. But is that something that Sydney FC can look at and say, well, this group has proven themselves in a one-off final to at least be winners, albeit, against the Great Barrier Reef?
Well, you called the first game. You called the first game of the year, Teo, where Kaczarski came off the bench and saved that. Sydney should have lost that game. They should not have made the final. So in the same way that the Mariners,
hang on,
should not have made this grand final.
Weren't they 3-1 up before the Mariners? Weren't they 2-1 up and the Mariners came back the other way though? So I think both teams could have knocked each other out at the end of the 90 and then at the end of extra time. So maybe it was fitting that it went to penalties.
Look, I'll put it this way. There was a lot of luck in that cup run. And, I think the truth behind Corica's Sydney FC was found in the early stages of the regular season when everyone was fit, everyone was ready to go. Sydney might have been there earlier, but they certainly weren't there at a higher level once all teams were sort of ready to go come the start of the season. That's a conversation we should have as well about the future of the Australia Cup. Is why on earth is it becoming a pre-season tournament? I don't love that, but that comes down to the alignment of the pyramid, and suddenly we're going into all the issues of Australian football, and we've only got 15 minutes to go. So
I wanted to ask you about like Sydney's NPL team. Finally, those players are stepping into the A-League, but now their NPL team is battling relegation. And is that a canary in the coal mine, or is that just an inevitable part of finally pushing Hayden Matthews and Jaden Kaczarski? And Tiago Quintal is still scoring a lot of goals in a lower team, and he'll physically, I don't know if he's kind of close to regular A-League football, but he is at least now starting to play well in the NPL, and he's got massive raps on him because he's a great technician. But is this the inevitable progression that Tale is going to start using more and more of those kids, especially if there's austerity measures across the league and some of the bigger salary guys say, well, screw this, I'm going to Thailand, I'm going to Indonesia, I'm going where I can get money in Southeast Asia?
Well, it's going to be one or the other because the Mariners are facing much the same situation where they've taken the cream of the crop off their NPL team, and suddenly I think when you look at the age profile of both those teams, they're young even for NPL sides as well. So when you look at the guys that had taken them to, the brink of the top 6 a couple of seasons ago, and Kaczarski and Sapsford and Paddy Wood were all part of those teams, then you're starting to talk about guys who've actually been playing senior football for a year or two. A lot of the players in this Sydney FC team that are down the bottom, and the same could be said for the Mariners that are down the bottom of the NPL at the moment, they are fresh to senior football. So I think it's a bit too soon to be calling it a canary in a coal mine, but certainly there needs to be some improvement there over the course of the season. And I'm not sure that we've seen that to this point, and we're about halfway through the year. So maybe you're right, Teo. My shorter answer is I'm not sure.
Well, I want to give you a little free hit so you can clip this up and be Nostradamus at some point down the road. What do you think of Tiago Quintal?
He is everything that Sydney FC fans thought Adrian Segicic was going to be. He is Daniel Arzani level in terms of how technically good he is at this young age. He is a serious baller. Everyone should be keeping their eyes on him. There's a reason Sydney FC have already signed him to that scholarship deal. He's something.
Well, that's exciting. I mean, that makes Australian football fun.
Good comparison. I like the comparison. Segacic and Arzani. There you go.
Yeah, wow. I mean, yeah, you heard it.
He's that level, though.
That is.
I think he actually could be better. He actually could be better.
Do you want to just, in case you want to click this up, like in like 2 years' time or something? Do you want to do like a little Brian Windhorst? Like, what is going on in Northwest?
It's funny that we've mentioned Windy a couple of times because we were speculating which journalist from Adelaide is going to relocate themselves to Munich and follow Nestor Irankunda's career. The A-League All-Stars on Friday is his last game in Australia before he goes to Germany. So I don't know, Antonis Pagonis, maybe this is your chance to head off to Munich and become the Brian Windhorst of Nestor's career.
Hey, speaking of, should we touch on the A-League All-Stars? They take on Newcastle United on Friday night, a blockbuster clash. What did you guys think of the squad? The squad, obviously, the Victory players and the Mariners players can't be in it. There's a few players who couldn't be in it for reasons like, Daniel Pena had some family issues, had to go back to Brazil, that kind of thing. I think there's a few injuries and stuff. But overall, are you happy? Are you excited? Do you think this is a fun all-star team, Alex?
Well, I think that's probably the one thing it is, Stoll, for the most part. When you're looking at, there's not a lot of defensive solidity in there. There's a lot of attacking talent, even amongst the defenders. Guys that, Jordan Courtney Perkins, listed as a defender, has been playing on the left wing for Sydney for the last couple of weeks. Tim Payne is not exactly, gets forward. Scott Wooten, Ryan Grant, Ben Garuccio, like Marcelo. Who is playing centre back in this team alongside Marcelo? Kai Truan? Like, that's basically the only option. Let's hope Patrick Kisnorbo doesn't have to put the boots on himself. You're looking at a little bit more defensive solidity through the middle with guys like Angus Thurgate and Luke Bratton. But it's a fun team. Ben Old's there, a favourite of the show. And, of course, it's going to be our last chance to see Nestor on home soil. So, personally, I'm hoping he's in the starting 11. I'm trying to put a boring team together out of that, because if there's a coach that could do it, it might just be Patrick Kisnorbo. But I think he's going to honestly, I think he's going to have a trouble doing it, because there is a lot of attacking attack thought first players in that side, and not a lot of sort of recalcitrant, we're going to sit back and get in our shape and be disciplined.
Tell you what, though, the English media are blowing up something royal about Newcastle and Spurs finishing their final Premier League game and being on the tarmac within 3 hours to fly to Australia. And I know there's a lot of chat about Manchester City winning the Premier League and 115 charges and financial fair play. But did we not, with financial fair play, create an environment where if your owner can't directly invest money, then all you can do is things like raise ticket prices on fans or go to far-flung corners of the earth to get yourself clean money? I feel as though this will be this game these two games, Spurs Newcastle and then Newcastle All-Stars, may actually be the tipping point for a rethink on financial fair play, because really all you've done is, instead of taking the money out of the pockets of billionaires willing to spend it, you're now taking it out of the pockets of fans and, in this instance, a promoter in the APL who, yes, are spending money to make money. But if Newcastle and Spurs could just, reach into the pockets of their owners for $3 more million, pretty easy in Newcastle's case, wouldn't they rather do that? So I feel as though this is going to be, for us, a bit of fun, and for England, a real referendum on these sort of matches going ahead.
I mean, Barcelona obviously came out and did a very similar thing when they came out a few years ago.
They were quite transparent about it. And again, if Barcelona was more created by their financial situation and their actual cash flow. The cash flow is not a problem for Newcastle. It's getting clean money is the issue that isn't direct investment from their own owners.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Tell you what, also be interesting. And you talked about speaking of old, Angus Thurgate. Really be interesting to see how he goes. But the other one I'm excited to see is Garen Quol. Garen Quol, the Nestor Irankunda of his era, Daniel Arsani of his time. We were so excited about Garen Quol. Was it a year ago, 2 years ago? I can't even remember now. But we have not seen him play for a long, long time now. I think, honestly, genuinely, the last time I saw him do anything, I think it was the World Cup, when obviously Emi Martinez made that save on him. So, Teo, how are you expecting kind of Garen Quol to go? And do you think that, where do you think he's going to go? What's going on there?
Well, I mean, the Olyroos didn't score a goal. It'd be nice to see Quol play 90 minutes here. We've got these matches which are almost dead rubbers, more or less dead rubbers, coming up against Bangladesh and Palestine in 3 weeks, a month. I don't think it's outrageous to suggest that a good full 90 here under the glare of the Australian media could do wonders to get Quol a bit of momentum for a Socceroos recall for these games, not least because every Olyroos player did not boost their stocks with that tournament. So, that next generation, which we, to be fair, held such great hopes for, now the club season's over. They need any minutes they can to press their case for a Socceroos recall.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's gonna be a very interesting game. Are you commentating the All Stars Newcastle game?
I'm doing the women's match against Arsenal, which...
Okay. The question still stands.
Yes.
Will you be the most biased A-League All-Stars commentator ever?
How many A-League All-Stars will you call up for the Matildas during the game?
Well, the Matildas, funnily enough, the Matilda squad's being named tomorrow, and they play China that week, I think later the next weekend over in Adelaide, and then a game in Sydney, I think.
Yep.
So they got 2 friendlies coming up soon. Look, I'm enjoying the idea of it being an exhibition and, being able to embrace moments rather than context, to be able to indulge in a nutmeg or a flick or a back heel or an audacious shot on goal or trying to score an Olympico from a corner, and just calling a moment in isolation, not needing to put it in the context of a season. I think that's what these friendlies are about. It's about, hey, do you remember when player did this? And that's the point of an All-Stars game as well. It is the biggest possible names doing cool things. And I think that's why the Barcelona game worked so well. I mean, the fact it turned out to be a good game, a 3-2, All-Stars, really taking it up to Barcelona. We can only hope we get something similar. But again, the English press, and even more pronounced with the women's game, this Arsenal team are flying to Australia, and then all their players that play for European games are flying back to Europe to link up with their international teams for European qualifiers. So it's just touch wood. We cannot, as a country, afford for anyone to get injured in this game. We just have to get through it with no one getting hurt. Otherwise, we're gonna become the I don't know what's the antagonists or the main evil character of the story very, very quickly.
Has Patrick Kisnorbo been told this?
I think Patrick Kisnorbo he's gonna want to redeem his
serious.
reputation
If he goes here,
what went down in France. We'll see what happens. Just looking at the A-League All-Stars 2, Barcelona 3, if you kind of look at the goal scorers of that, everyone, it's almost like that game was a little bit cursed because Reno Piscopo scored for the A-League All-Stars, and his career's kind of stalled, I'd say. And then, of course, there was Adama Traore. That's the A-League version. Now, his career, he scored an absolute banger at the weekend, so maybe it's there. But after that game, his career stalled as well. Of course, Adama Traore, the Barcelona one. He was at Barcelona. I have no idea. Is it Fulham now or something? Like he doesn't even make these incredible runs and then stuffs up the final product, which used to be his forte. And then Ousmane Dembele scored a goal. His career's kind of, PSG, whatever. And then Ansu Fati as well. Ansu Fati Stutzer. At one stage, I thought he was going to be one of the all-time great Barcelona strikers. And now I'm hoping that they can get 5 million out of some Premier League club in a transfer. So interesting to see what happens after this game. But should be exciting. Tay, what are you most looking forward to about the women's game?
No, just hopefully just a lot of goals and not a great deal of defending. I feel as though Arsenal fans and women's football fans are in such a strange place with that team, Jonas Eidevall, that coach, the forced exit of Vivian Miedema, who I assume is not on the plane, but I still haven't seen a squad. In terms of a storyline, if Miedema was contractually obliged to fly out to Australia and end her Arsenal career with this friendly, it would be a big story. So hopefully she is actually coming out here. But just all the various threads that can be pulled, you never actually know which one the fan base may seize upon as the thing they, enjoy or hate the most and want to create a pile-on about.
Yeah, it's true. Look, we're an hour into the show. We should probably wrap up pretty soon. We'll just pump through a couple of topics. Did you see Chris Wood? Another few goals. And he's passed like Luis Suarez and Kevin De Bruyne and I think Yaya Toure as well. He's up to 70 goals. This was a guy who on this show, Joe Simon suggested, Chris Wood, that would be exciting if he came to the A-League. And we laughed at him. We laughed at him at the idea of Chris Wood being an exciting player or anyone being excited. Man, Chris Wood, he's past Paducah, he's past Harry Kuehl. I mean, God, he's have we underestimated him? I guess we have, Alex.
Proper goal scorer. A guy who was made for English football. When you think about it, a guy who makes all the right runs off the ball. That's where his best attribute is. He's very, very valuable to these teams that need goals to survive. And he's found himself at a number of clubs where he's been able to play that role very well. When you think of great New Zealand footballers who've had good careers over in the Premier League, you're thinking guys like Winston Reid and Ryan Nelson.
Joe Rockefeller,
those guys. Yeah, I can't think of anyone sort of that I'd have
Steve Adams
other than him on that table. Maybe level, but he's credit to Woody. Definitely not Deadwood.
We didn't get an answer on what time it is in New Zealand, though, Stoll.
No. But I mean, tune in next week for the thrilling conclusion of that game. Look, we should do a tip for the grand final, of course, but maybe before that, we probably should talk about a little bit of a big story that happened in the A-League this week. A betting scandal at MacArthur, and obviously, there's not exactly the Make Australian Football fun. Deliberately getting a yellow card, so someone in South America could make a killing. Not exactly so fun unless you are that person in South America, or I don't know what's happening to them now. Look, I mean, there's probably other places to talk about it in a more serious manner. I will say I was very annoyed that Lucis Davila was probably the main player implicated in this, mainly because he is such a fun player. And I was like, why couldn't it be a boring player that, I don't want to see in the league anymore? Why couldn't it be a Connor Chapman? Why couldn't it be, an Isais or someone I could be like, yep, life ban, let's get rid of him with Davila? You're like, oh man, you were one of the best players to watch. You were one of the best reasons, maybe the only reason I watched MacArthur mainly this season. So, it's annoying. You would assume, obviously, there's some kind of trial that needs to be placed. I actually don't know what the rules are, and if they could face jail time or anything like that. I don't know. I don't know what the issues are. Although, Jesus, the police raid was a bit much. Like, I don't know. I don't know what they thought they were going to find at his house when they sent the SWAT team. Also, man, the SWAT team must have some shitty hours. Like, if you work for them and you got to do all these dawn raids, like, do you get time and a half for those early starts or? I would have said, don't worry about a dawn raid. Why don't we do like a lunchtime raid? No one's expecting a lunchtime raid. Everyone's expecting the dawn raid. Anyway, whatever. Cameras are there. But guys, any other thoughts on this other than, early starts?
Look, I'd love to know the hit rate of how often the Ride Squad actually, do walk just in on someone in their hoodie and slippers. That would be very interesting intel. But I think on a more serious note, the sad thing was working in a
newsroom that is dominated by rugby league and AFL people, having to answer those questions over and over. It was the same when the victory thing happened with the bucket. The day after, you just dread going into work because you know you're just going to be hammered with questions by people who don't give a shit about the league and don't give a shit about football other than when the Socceroos and maybe the Matildas are playing. And look, that's their prerogative. And I'm sure that was the last thing Ulysses de Villa and Bacchus and Clayton Lewis were thinking about when they did this. But it's just another black eye for the game that we really don't need, even if it isn't something specific to Australian football. This is something that we know has happened a lot more across the world than it has here. And probably our measures are better than a lot of places in the world in dealing with it, particularly when you talk about the salaries that some of our players get paid. So that's basically my thoughts on it. And the fact that it was such a small amount of money, well, relatively speaking, is probably makes it all the more disappointing.
Yeah, totally. For
these guys
felt
the need to go and do this for something so comparatively not substantial for professional footballers.
Yeah, I know. It was disappointing when you said it was 10 grand. You're like, you losers. At least if it was for like $500,000 or something, you were like, yeah, okay, maybe. But 10 grand, my God, 10 grand, it's not even worth anything in this economy. I mean, with inflation, if you're gonna fix a game, pump up the nose. I mean, even the fact that it was such a low number made me think, Jesus, is this happening more often than we think? But I don't know. It was very disappointing, and like you say, it is a bad look for the game, and it just gives all the ammunition to, all these people go, oh, the A-League, they've got to get their act together, mate. They've got to get their act together. What's going on there? The A-League, oh, man, I don't even watch the A-League. Oh, yeah, okay, thanks.
Why don't they get rid of offside?
yeah.
Make the goals bigger.
Yeah, well, an extra time, they should get rid of the goalkeepers. Yeah, they'll make it better. Yeah, cheers, Jim. So, and then when the Matildas are playing, oh, yeah, I like them. Anyway, very, very annoying Wizard of Woy. But with $10,000, who would be millionaires?
Rise to you, Wizard of Woy.
Yeah,
what have you got on your desk? Nick Stoll.
I have a tiny, tiny padlock and the key. You get both complimentary. Look,
you can lock your $10,000 away safely.
I don't even know how to close it. Well, anyway, look, we'll send it out to you. But yeah, look. Pretty disappointing stuff. We'll see kind of what happens there. But I mean, just also Factor Villa, like one of the best players. Oh man, it killed me. So look, hopefully it's dealt with. Hopefully that is the last time we ever see anything like this. I do think it's also, it should be kind of talked about that this whole, when you go on sports betting websites and you can bet on is there going to be a throw-in in the first minute of a game? And all these random things in games, which no one is really going to notice if someone really deliberately manipulates it. Like if you wanted to deliberately manipulate a throw-in in the first minute of a game, the ball comes back to you off a kickoff, you just punch it straight out and go, sorry, I thought I was aiming for the wing or whatever. I don't know. I just think you've got to get rid of all those minor, I don't know what they call them, but fine. I understand, the betting is a big thing in the world, in Australia. Okay, result, yep, fine. Score, fine. Whatever. But these little tiny, this individual players getting yellow cards. I mean, the fact that anyone is betting on that should be a red flag. They should just be automatically what's wrong with you? You should get automatically a video where someone just says to you, man, look at what you're doing with your life. You're betting on yellow cards for MacArthur games. All right, touch grass. Go outside. This isn't for you, my friend. Anyway, look, nothing more to add on that. Any final thoughts, or should we just go to a tip? For the grand final. Taya?
Last time these two teams played was the game with 3 red cards. Mariners won 1-0 due to a Ryan Teague own goal at a free kick where he was trying to clear off the goal line and booted it into the roof of his own net. Then Victory had 2 players sent off, Roderick Miranda and Geordie Balladon. And then there was the big blow up at the end where the Mariners got a red card as well. These two teams really don't like each other. And I feel as though it will be, even if it's a little bit standoffish to begin with, there will be flashpoints and this will be a spicy grand final. And I do think that the fact that the Mariners are in this environment every week, they will win. And I do wonder if as back-to-back champions, that underdog, lovable Mariners will finally be put to rest as they potentially play the heel and the villain in getting another win this weekend?
I have the underdog Mariners to equalise late and then lose on penalties. It would be just like victory to kill more dreams in the most heartbreaking of ways. I can't wait to watch it. It'll be very entertaining.
And the big question then, if Paul Izzo does do another penalty miracle, where is the statue built, and does 777, can they even afford it? Because it's not looking too good right at the moment. I will say what was good was the protest that the Victory fans did on the Yarra River. It looked amazing. It's just a really cool photo. But that's more an artistic comment rather than a comment on the owners of Victory. But good luck to them. I'm tipping. Oh, geez, it's tough because on the one hand, I think Victory are the perfect team to kind of, like the Heist and the Hunter, the perfect team to shithouse their way to a win. But then at the same time, I kind of like the Popovich curse of never winning the A-League continuing. And so for that reason, I'm going to say the Mariners are going to win. I think it's their season. Everything kind of is pointing their way. I think it is going to be incredibly close. I think it is going to be incredibly dramatic. I think hopefully it'll be incredibly fun. Although I can kind of see this being a bit of a tight game, a game where no one wants to risk too much, maybe a kind of under 2.5 special, speaking of things you can bet on. But I'm going to say the Mariners to win and the Popovich curse to continue. And this show will continue. This show will be back next week. I don't know exactly when, probably Monday, 8 p.m. But we will be back. We'll be better than ever. There'll be even more reasons to listen in. There'll be more prizes to give away. We'll give away a pair of Nike gloves. There's a Philips clock radio that you can get there, which is there. Plenty of prizes to win. Phil, I mean, guys, if you have anything at hand to show.
Yes, I have an olive pit.
Oh, an olive pit. Jeez, that's good, very organic.
Some mostly empty zinc. What else do we want around here?
Hey, you need that in the Australian sun. I know it's getting into winter, but still, you save it. Many things. Look, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much to you, Teo Pellizzeri. Anything to plug this week apart from the A-League All-Stars?
Watch the All-Stars on Friday.
Oh, there you go. Alex, anything to plug? You work for those people who don't know. Just kind of explain the shows that you work on.
SEN Radio, I work on every show on the Sydney version, but mainly the afternoon show with Jimmy Smith every day from midday. Last episode of the Global Game. So if you're listening to this later, is tomorrow night. Go and listen to the Global Game with Simon Hill and Alex.
Are they not doing a post grand final show? Is it on the jet straight to the Whitsundays or Ibiza as soon as the full time whistle goes on the grand final?
1, 2, 3.
We've been knifed. We've been cut, Teo. It's a programming decision from the bigwigs, absolutely spewing. But no, it has been a lot of fun to do that show again this year. And then Morning Glory with Matty Johns, 9 a.m. till 12 p.m. Very similar in thought to this show, just about 20, 30 years older in content, if that's the idea of what you're sort of getting in that program. So have fun listening to all those and hearing my voice occasionally on all of them.
Alex, can I ask a question? Have you been producing Mark Bosnich as he has done some shifts for SEN?
I haven't worked directly with Bozza, but certainly aware of his presence in the building every time he is in there. He is Hurricane Bozza. The man you see on television and listen to on radio is exactly the same in real life.
I would say it's only about 20% of what he's like in real life. And Alex, you make the perfect point. You know he's in the building. You know when he's 4 floors away. This guy is one of... Look, I say, I love Bozza. I was lucky enough...
Most people do.
Yeah. Super charming guy. Produced him for 2 years at Stan. And it was a wonderful experience. He's a wonderful guy, really generous guy. Really great guy to just talk to about football or about anything. And boy, does he love a chat. Oh my God, he loves a chat with anyone and everyone, even people who don't particularly want to chat with him. XMB, he signs off, that's not just a Twitter thing. He signs off every message, every
text.
Every day. Like, we'll be going back and forth. Hey, Buzz, you want to do this? Yeah, you can do this. XMB every single time. He once got hacked on Instagram. And the only reason that people could tell it wasn't him was because the hackers weren't using XMB at the end. That was it. They're idiots. He is the foolproof system. I mean, I mean, God, you want to? I don't know why I'm saying this, but I'm guessing his password probably has XMB at the end as well. So maybe you need to work it out. Just only for consistency. I have no information. But look, Boz is the best. But it is, if ever you get a chance to meet Boz, you'll have a story to tell because of it. Look, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to the 15 million people who listen every week. Please like, comment, post us on, billboards around the country. I don't know. Just have a great time. Make Australian football more fun this week and next. We'll speak to you soon. We'll see you next week.